3, 2, 1.
Here we go.
All right. Hey, I didn't do an awkward intro this time. I almost did. Yeah, I just totally fell trying to say the word awkward. What's up, everybody? Welcome to WunderCAST. I'm your host, Ryker Taylor, joined with in studio. I have our producer, Alex Masterson. What's up, Alex?
Well, you know, that non-awkward intro ended up stumbling over your own words, but
it was really bad. I told myself, I was like, I'm going to launch into it. I'm going to do it right. And then I ended up just fumbling it at the touchdown. So
yep. That is about right. But it's good.
Yeah.
I'm good today.
It's Friday. It's like 4:30 when we're filming this. We usually film these things on Thursday afternoons. So this is a little different, you know. Snowmageddon kind of set us back a week, so we have to record extra in a week. So anyway, because it's Friday, and we're gonna call this what? Feel Good Friday, Feeling Good Friday.
That sounds fun. That sounds good to me.
Okay, yeah. So we're just gonna vibe today. You know, there's not necessarily a set agenda for this episode, and the last one that was just Alex and I. We talked about crap, I don't remember. Yeah, what was the last?
A piece of garbage.
Yeah.
No, we talked about
the speed perfection curve. Yes, there it is. There it is. I remember now. So that was cool, but it was definitely just more of a technical conversation that might have lost a few people, to be honest. So I'm wanting to just keep it light today and talk about trends and what's trending. And Alex, I always look to you for staying up on what's trending. So if you had to give me 3 things in the world right now that you think are trending that are not political or virus related, what would they be? Give me some wholesome news.
Wholesome news. Retro. Retro is the first trending thing.
Okay.
That seems to be coming back big. I know we talked about that a little bit this morning. Burger King rebranded themselves to their old retro logo, and that seems to be a running theme. They're not the first to have done that.
Pizza Hut did that too.
Pizza Hut did it as well. That's right. There are some other brands that are doing things like that. That's one of the current trending things. Secondarily, there's this isn't necessarily lighthearted or a good thing, but microtransactions are no longer a thing. In place, Nintendo has made themselves the arbiter of all things that are pricey. So that's another trending thing. That seems to be another trending thing, at least in my sphere, the video game world.
Okay.
And come back to me on the third one. I haven't thought of anything yet.
Okay. Well, on the topic of the first one with retro trending, I have some thoughts on that, and I want to kind of talk this out with you a little bit. But yeah, you've got Burger King, you got Pizza Hut, and all these people are kind of hearkening back to their branding of old. Like I know why Pizza Hut did it. Pizza Hut rebranded back to their old stuff back when they used to dominate the pizza space, back before Papa John's and Domino's were giving them tough competition. I think Pizza Hut did that in part because was their golden age. And so why not go back to what was working, even if it's 30 years later, 20 years later. So how much of that, in your opinion, do you think is businesses like Burger King, like Pizza Hut, trying to go back to relive their golden years versus them going back because that branding was just better than what they have now?
I think that has a part to do with it. I think that there's some of the companies, I was telling Cassidy this earlier, Burger King kind of did it because their marketing was kind of falling flat on a lot of people.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It was just not hitting the right notes. And so I think that they kind of wanted to go do their own thing. They wanted to rebrand themselves and kind of get away from that, at least from my opinion. I don't know if that's exactly why they did it, but I do agree that Pizza Hut definitely, I think, is doing it for the reasons that they were the dominating pizza place back in the day. And personally, I'm a big Domino's fan, but I can appreciate what Pizza Hut used to be. As a kid, I remember it being like top notch.
Did you get that personal pan pizza?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the That was the place.
And
That was the place to go.
You'd go sit down and at one of the corner booths.
Yep.
And there was that little circle light above your head that was made of stained glass that had their logo in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they kind of tried to keep that around, but it's not. I don't know. It didn't ever feel the same. I don't know if they changed the recipe or if it just kind of went downhill or what. But I do think that theirs is partially because they're trying to relive those golden years.
So I'm showing this to the camera here, but if you have don't sign into my account here. If you have the Pizza Hut app, you can see right there. They well, crap. What did I do here? You can see it there for half a second. You can see it. There you go, right there. Boom. It's got the old stained glass lamp looking thing on there.
Yes. You
Yes,
can kinda see
yes.
that. Wait. Turn it a little more towards the light again.
The light,
It
like
focused
this,
it.
like
No.
this.
You had it right in the right spot. Now just turn it a little bit. Other way. It's not doing it.
Crap.
Yep.
Well, we won't waste any more time on that. But yeah, that's they've even put those elements like that old school light fixture in their app because why? Well, they're trying to harken back to their glory days. So how does that relate to you and your business if you're listening to this? Well, I think that if you're a company that's been around for 35 years, maybe you used to be more dominant than you are now, then it might be worth looking at. Why are you not as dominant anymore? Is it because your product is outdated? Is it because competitors came and passed you by because you stayed complacent while they moved quickly? Or is it because you did what a lot of companies did, I feel like in the mid 2000s, early 2010s, and try to rebrand for a future age and simply just fumbled all the brand equity you had built for forever? Like, I don't feel like Pizza Hut's, newest, I mean, their newest stuff is their old stuff, but the modern look that they were trying to go for was never going to be as good or as strong as their older stuff. And they spent all that time and money building that brand just to change it, just to freaking change it. And, and something that I've been thinking about, now I'm kind of fired up now about this, Alex. So I said no set agenda, but now I'm over here like going to dwell on this the rest of the episode. I'm fired up, but there's so many, these dang tech companies rebranding, all these companies rebranding. I feel like every company that's rebranding right now is like, it's like almost like they're losing branding. Like you got, you know what I mean? Like they're all using these word marks that are just a font, and it's like a sans serif font, and that's somebody's big, great rebrand. Like, are you joking with me?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, that's like, yeah, I think branding right now, there's this trend. Like if you're not going retro, if you're not hearkening back to your glory days, then you're on the other end of the spectrum. If you're rebranding and it's like trying to push for this ultra minimalism take, and it's like, what? At some point, everyone's so minimalist that it's all exactly the same. Like the Google logo and Facebook's new logo. Could you even pick that out now? Like it doesn't even look like a logo. It looks like somebody typed up, like some third party typed up Facebook in Microsoft Word and said that's your logo now. Like it's not even a logo. It's a font.
Yeah. And to be fair to Facebook,
you don't have to be fair to Facebook.
Facebook makes their own rules, so it's not like it matters. But what I'm saying, I think, is that Facebook probably had the right mindset when they were going about doing something like that. Like, ultimately, if you look at social platforms and things like that, that's just kind of their tone.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of the way they want to go.
Just plain, yeah.
And it does get boring.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that there's a very weird lack of spunk with the tech industry right now. And we were looking at Apple earlier today as well. They just don't, I don't know, they don't resonate like some of these other places do. And so I think that might also be a part of the retro trend, is that people are trying to get out of that stale sans serif, straight font, no, letter mark type thing.
Yeah.
I think that that's kind of part of it too, is that people are just trying to break the mold a little bit.
So here's a question for you. How long before Apple goes back to their 80s/90s branding?
They won't.
They won't. You don't think so?
I don't think they will. I think that's just like I said, kind of nature of the beast for tech companies to stay with that and not, I don't think they'll ever go back to it until they decide they want to go with a new brand. And I don't even when they decide they want to do that, which may be 30 years from now, I don't think it'll be like this retro kind of spunky fun look. I think it'll still be something very similar to what it is now.
Yeah, and I don't know that I love it, you know. And I mean, even us, our logo is. I mean, I love our logo, but we have the icon and then the word, and I think together that's something. And the icon on its own is good, but we don't really ever just use Wonder Tree spelt out as a thing because it's really not a thing. It's a font, like, and that's okay. There's several logos that we've made for clients that are mostly just font based. Maybe they have a color in them and some kind of stylistic approach, but it's very minimalist. I'm not knocking on minimalist logos, but I do think it's gotten to a place where everybody is trying to do that. So now it's like the separation. What's separating you from others? Not much, honestly. And that's gotten the goal of minimalism is to not have much there. So, yeah, I think I like Burger King going back old school. You know, I don't know brand psych. I do know brand psychology, but I guess maybe it's working on me. But I've eaten at Pizza Hut a lot more since they went back to their other branding. I mean, I just have. I don't know that it's. I don't know if it's just because where I live, there's just a pizza right down the street, or what. But yeah, it's something. It's worked on me somehow. So
I think that rebranding places specifically that do food piques your interest again, and it makes you reassociate them with the new logo. So I've even considered that with Burger King and things like that. And I am not a Burger King fan. Not that they've done anything wrong. I just am not a big fan. But yeah, I think that's probably part of it. Is that there's a likeness where you go and you see that thing and you're like, you know, that's new, even though it's not. It's the same thing. It does kind of come down to brand psychology, and I think that maybe that was their exact point. Maybe they just wanted to go back to that and be like, well, will they change their logo again? I wonder if they've changed something else.
You know, a pizza place that did a great job on a rebrand was Domino's, and you went into that on a previous brand love episode. But when I think of that, I think of like, you had that old school Domino's logo, you had the old school Pizza Hut logo. They both transitioned into new logos, relatively within the same sphere of time, and clearly Domino's came out the winner there. I think the Domino's brand now is the strongest it's ever been. But I think that Pizza Hut took a step backwards, and a lot of businesses are taking a step backwards. And I think that's one reason that we're talking about this, and I'm wanting to talk about this right now, is if you're listening to this and you're wanting to start a company, or if you've had a company for 35 years, like I said, you really need to think about what your branding is going to be, and don't necessarily just go for this minimalistic push. Don't necessarily go for the retro thing though either, because that, like with all trends, will phase out. Even though it's got kind of a quote unquote timeless look, it is still time bound. But the whole point of a logo is to build it up into something that's timeless. If you look at McDonald's will probably never change their logo. That double arch M. And I know they did. They changed it like way early on in their company, but now there's so much money that they've put into that thing. Like that I think that's the whole point of a good brand, is like, it doesn't, you can make a bad, everyone saw Google's first logo. That was not a good logo, but they were $1 billion company, and they, literally stuffed it down people's throats, on search engine pages and stuff like that. That's the thing about a logo. It doesn't have to be objectively great. If you it's up to you as a business to make your logo mean something. And I think that's why it kind of sucks if you want to change it, is if you've taken all the time to build it into something, it's really hard to do that right. So I feel like you have something to say on this, Alex.
I mean, you're barking right up the right tree here. This is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
So, well, partially now,
Yeah.
Extended title. No, I think that that's a good point to make. There's a ton of brands that were out there before that didn't have something special, and maybe they did at the time, but you look at it now and it didn't translate to what the current trends are, and they've evolved it into something new, and they've continuously evolved it. I feel like I say evolve a lot on this podcast. However, it is what it is though. They evolve it with the times, and sometimes it may stick forever, sometimes it may not. And just knowing what's gonna suit you best, what sounds looks like you best, and it just gives off that, like, Google radiates that kind of energy when you look at their logo, the energy that they want to give off. Apple radiates that energy. Tom Ford, you name the big brands, anything like that, they're gonna radiate the energy they want to put forth with just their icon or just their logo or just their text.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, when you mentioned brand titans there, you just totally left out Wonder Tree.
Oops.
Yeah, you gotta mention that, right?
A little bit of remix.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll be up there with the brand titans. That's the hope and dream. But no, yeah, no, yeah, you know, yes. I think that's I think we're definitely onto something here, and I think that if you're a business, again, if you're a business in a position of taking a critical look at your brand, and I think you should always be evaluating your brand. It should be a healthy mixture of always critiquing, yet always being willing to lean into who you are, and just further your brand. And I think people get caught up in when they try to rebrand. A lot of people try to completely recreate. And when you look at McDonald's, that bringing them back, when they did change, and they've made small iterative improvements over the years, it's really been very minute changes. It's not been these, you know, you wake up and McDonald's has totally changed what they look like overnight. You just did a brand love a couple of weeks ago for MailChimp. And that's a great example too, where if you look at MailChimp's logo now compared to what it was at the beginning, you can tell there is a contrast there. But if you followed them in their journey, you maybe didn't necessarily notice some of these subtle changes that they've made over time. And that MailChimp, there's a brand that did it right. And I think they're the only one in the brand love stamp of approval club at the moment. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree. I think that's part of the thing with, you know, especially like even Domino's as well. Using what you had before, even if you're young and you had something right at the beginning, like I think I can even contribute this to our first iteration of our logo. From what I've seen, it still has roots there of what that was, because that was the vision that you specifically had for it, and it just has been updated over time to kind of fit what we still want it to be, but also has those roots, those historical roots, excuse me. And you know, Domino's has done that as well, where they not right from the very beginning, but almost had a domino included in their thing, and they've just kind of slowly changed it over time. Right. Slow evolution, but it still remains the same. And people from, you know, I think it was 1965 when they first introduced that logo, will probably remember what that looked like, and they can still associate Domino's with what that was.
Yes, that's exactly right. You could have seen that logo in the 60s when you were a kid, and you could see their logo now, and you would still know that's Domino's. You would still know it's Domino's, even though it's different. It's evolved. That's the perfect word. And maybe you say that a lot, but still, it is the perfect word to explain what you got to do there. As a brand, you just have to evolve with your audience, with the changing of the times, whatever, right? And I think too many people approach rebranding as recreation, going from one thing to another thing from the ground up totally. And I don't think that's the right play. I think you lose too much of the equity in your brand that you've spent so much time and money building up into that point. So yeah, that we've kind of talked about this a lot. I think we've got our thoughts out of the way. So the other thing you said was trending was Nintendo, and the microtransaction thing. So that's interesting. Any other things you want to expound upon that? And then you still got to give us a third topic.
Yeah, my point with Nintendo is that I just don't. They've kind of been a little bit too stingy with their money lately. They relaunched a game that came out in 2011, and the problem that's with that is that they're charging the same amount for the old game and $80 for the new controller when the old game came out with a new controller and a soundtrack for $60.
Yeah.
So $140
For a game that's 10 years old.
for a game that's 10 years
Yeah.
old.
I think that's just bad business. And, Nintendo's been in hot water over various things. Like, I feel like this is like the third or fourth thing like this that you've talked about in the last year or so.
Yeah, I just kind of I grew up with Nintendo, and so it's hard for me to not, wish that they would do what they did when we were kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking to the retro perspective of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that they'll be all right though. I think they're going to end up they do some things right, and then they do some things just
Blows your
seems
mind.
like stingy, money hungry, wrong. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And you didn't really have a third topic.
No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean,
Okay.
I could give you a specific topic about Elgato. but
I was
we'll
just
leave
about to
that.
say, well, how about a third topic about Elgato? A, their wonderful branding. B, their wonderful products.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
exactly what I'd call that. Yeah, Elgato, you're doing a great job. I just want to talk about how your equipment works perfectly.
Yeah.
And it didn't just cost us 30 minutes in this podcast, and it did not work a few times. So it's all good. I'm
Yes.
really appreciative of the work that you put into things. This isn't the first time I've dealt with your stuff, and this is not the first time I've seen people deal with your stuff, and it works great for everybody.
The sarcasm is splitting, dude. That smile is very sarcastic.
I hope they know I'm looking right at them.
Yeah. Word of advice if you're listening and you want to start your own podcast, try to avoid maybe using anything Elgato related. We're gonna try to get moving off of that as quickly as we can. So
Listen, I'm harsh. I go right at you for stuff like that. But for the record, this has worked when it works.
yeah, when it works, it works. But
it works
the
fine, as you
reliability
can
is
see.
the issue.
Yeah.
When we need to sit down and be able to make a podcast and we have X amount of time blocked out for it and half that time is utilized trying to just get it to work, that's not reliable. And that's unfortunately let that be a note to you. If you're listening to this, you can have a great product, but if you only show up when you show up, or your product only works, when it wants to work, it's going to cause a lot of customer pain, and you're not going to ever grow as big as you could be. And you're most likely going to fail at some point if you continue to do that enough. So that's a good, that's a good way to kind of start wrapping up this episode. I think we're getting kind of close to our usual run time anyway. So this was a fun episode. Again, we filmed it on a Friday. It was just kind of different for us and just a little bit different type of topic, flowed more about the retro branding, things like that. I enjoyed it. Alex, any parting words?
I think everybody knows what my
Yeah.
words are.
And it starts with an F and it is headed towards Elgato. Yep. We'll catch you in the next one, guys. Bye.